Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Art of the Feminine podcast. This is Shannon Port. Just waiting to see if I can hear the sound. So, welcome. Here we go. All right. So, today we are going to be talking about the Scorpio full moon that's happening on May 18th. And today I'm actually here live on Monday, May 13th, and I'm very happy to be here 6 days before the full moon happens. And so I'm actually just getting ready to hop on a plane and head to Boulder, Colorado for my birthday this week. And so I was really excited that we're able to meet before I go because I wasn't sure if I would have a chance this week. And so we are going to oh, hi. Let me know if you can hear me. I'll just do a quick sound check and I'll take a peek down. Um, we are going to talk about as I promised, we're going to continue talking about some of the esoteric teachings around these astrological correspondences and the alchemy that's happening through the zodiac. And the reason for doing that is just to it's really just to tap the consciousness. It's to tap our hearts, our creativity, and to open a fountain. I think last time somebody mentioned opening a spring, but to open that wellspring of creativity, of creative energy that's in our hearts. It's in all of our hearts. We are all divine creators, and just having an understanding of some of this puzzle that we are living in helps to it helps to activate spiritual impulse, which gives us the desire to create. And so before I get started, I want to say that for all of those of you who contacted me about light body yoga, I just sent out the email today. There is a link in the description box for the June 7th course that's taking place. And that's all I'll say right now. You can go to that link to find out more, and I might say a word or two at the end. But anyway, we're leading up to that, so it's nice to be in contact with you about that. I'm really, really looking forward to it. That's going to be a deep, deep, deep well of wisdom around some of the things we're talking about today. All right, for this full moon, the title that and the theme that we're going to go with is reclaiming power and sovereignty of emotions. Reclaiming power and sovereignty of our emotions. And so I want you guys to keep me to that theme. There's just a lot. There's a lot of layers, and so there's a lot of little things sparking in the creative field. And so I'm going to work how we always work. We kind of stream and we play around and we use the impulses of the interaction between us to call forth the wisdom. But there's a lot today, and so I want to be really I want to stick to the theme though of reclaiming power because it's so big right now. It's so big right now, and our sovereignty. And a lot of people are talking about sovereignty. Our sovereignty is the ability to be in our emotions, to use the power of our emotional body, but to not be ruled by it, or to not have somebody else governing over our emotional body, to use the power of our emotions the way that we're meant to use them as co-creators of this reality. And so it's very, very important right now. The Scorpio full moon touches on that in a huge way. We also have let's see what's going on. What else is going on in water? Mars is entering Cancer. I believe it will be in at 1 degree of the sign of Cancer, squaring Chiron and Aries. So there's going to be a lot of things going on to assist this awakening of our sovereignty in our emotions. And so, nice to hear that, and nice to see all of you. All right, and I will check in for questions. So, oh, they're moving. So if you make a question, if you can put some caps, I'll see it right when I look down. So I want to start with a quote by the well-known French writer Anais Nin, if I pronounced her name right, Anais Nin. And I'm sure you know, I'm sure you've heard this quote. but it couldn't be more relevant in these times of healing and ascension that we're living in. And it goes like this: we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are. We don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are. And that's really the theme. And we're going to be talking about how huge Pluto theme. Pluto is the ruler of this full moon, rules Scorpio. I mean, there's a lot going on here. And so there's strong, Pluto is retrograde in Capricorn. And as I promised, we're going to, thank you. We are going to talk about the Pluto and Saturn retrograde happening in Capricorn. We're going to tie that all in. And there's also 4 planets in Taurus, a lot of Taurus energy happening. The Taurus Scorpio axis is lit, and we're gonna go into that. Let's see what else. Lilith is conjunct Neptune in Pisces. Some deep. I mean, there's strong Lilith themes here. Oh, this is exciting. So Lilith is conjunct Neptune in Pisces, and somebody mentioned Lilith in Pisces last video. We also have the sun and Mercury conjunct the star Algol. I'm going to talk a little bit about this star Algol, the fixed star Algol, because it's considered to be, and this is hilarious because my sun falls right on this point. My my birthday. I was born on Algol, so Algol is considered to be the most evil point in the entire zodiac. It rules. It represents the darkest subconscious powers of Lilith, and her rage and her anger to the point of violence. And so this star falls at 26 degrees of Taurus. My sun is at 25 degrees Taurus. So we have the sun at 27 degrees Taurus, and we have Mercury, I believe, at 24 degrees. So both Mercury and the sun are conjunct Algol opposite the full moon in Scorpio. So we have a lot of Lilith happening. We have Lilith in Pisces conjunct Neptune, and then we have these Lilith energies really present. And then we have Scorpio, which is like Lilith to me. I mean, Scorpio rules those underworld themes of sex and death and violence and power and dominating energies and secrets and manipulation and merging and death and all of these things that where sex and death come together and meet, all these really deep Lilith themes. So we're going to talk about those today. All right. Let's look at where we'll look at the transits, and then we'll jump into some of the esoteric wisdom and how we can work on transmuting judgment at the Scorpio full moon. So we have, first of all, I want to talk about the Pluto and Saturn retrograde happening. Both Pluto and Saturn are retrograde in the sign Capricorn. There's a lot of Earth energy right now. There's 4 planets in Taurus, which trines Capricorn, and and we have Saturn and Pluto, both retrograde in Capricorn. That means we're really transmuting the lower elemental forces of Earth right now. We are doing huge transmutation, huge alchemical work right now in these signs. The biggest theme that I'm working with right now, and that I'm going to be huge emphasis in the 7-week Light Body Yoga course that I'm teaching this time around, is judgment. Pluto is the ruler of the archetype judgment. Pluto is also the ruler of Scorpio. The archetype of Scorpio is death, key 13. Pluto's individual archetype is key 20, judgment. So we're gonna look at what this means. Why judgment? Why does Pluto rule judgment? Why does death and rebirth and regeneration all center around the archetype of judgment and the last judgment? It's a huge key to reclaiming our power and our sovereignty. It's bigger. This has come in for me over many years, and it's getting more and more real, the understanding of what we call the law of one and unity. and how we understand how we, in this ego consciousness, we live in ego consciousness. And Taurus, which is opposite Scorpio, really represents sensuality, and it represents the earth consciousness, it represents the elements. If you want to know more about Taurus, I recommend that you watch the Taurus new moon video. I got that up rather a little bit late. It didn't get as much circulation as some of the other videos do, but there's a lot of information really relevant about the sign Taurus and the elemental forces and Venus, all the archetypes for that. Taurus also rules our fallen earth on the shadow side. It rules our ego mind body, our ego body, our personality, when we're more addicted and fooled by this projection of Maya, the illusion of 3D matter, and how that illusion of 3D matter is connected to our carnal desires and our bondage. Because 5, the Hierophant, key 5, we're going to really jump. Key 5 is the Hierophant. It's the archetype of Taurus. We talked about how it's the Hebrew letter Vav. Key 5 represents our fall, and it represents our regeneration. It represents all archetypes have the light and the shadow. We fell into the 5 senses. We fell into we lost our power. We lost spirit ruling over matter when the pentagram inverted and went down. This is the world that our consciousness is living in right now. And so what we're doing, we're transmuting these elements, and we're transmuting them through judgment. It's huge. And Scorpio full moon is very connected to it, and being its opposite Mercury and the sun, there's a real kind of blast of a download in the mind. And the star Algol, there's a lot of Lilith energy saying, let's heal. Lilith became more, she lost her power in this consciousness as well, because even though she kind of has rule over this consciousness, it's not her true home. It's not her true home. She's without her counterpart. The feminine has the dark and the light, and she also wants to be one with her light sister. And so, all right. So let's look at the planets, and then we will move on to talking about some of the wisdom. So, I found some really fun things. So we have, of course, Pluto at 23 degrees Capricorn. Saturn 20 degrees Capricorn, both conjunct the south node. So in karmic positions, retrograding, we're reworking. Pluto is judgment. We are reworking judgment. We're learning. Saturn is the past. It's our karma. We're learning how we created the past with our judgment, and how we can free ourselves from our karmic past with the last judgment. And this is really, really, really powerful. How we can go beyond the past and break free from the past. When we're living in that Saturn-bound reality, we're meant to process the past and understand it from a higher vantage point. But when we're in judgment and projection of the ego, we're bound to it, and it brings a lot of pain and suffering. We get temporary pleasures, but we go up and down. We go up and down. We're on the wheel. And we keep coming in trying to finish up our past business, but we're ready to be done with finishing up our past business. We're ready to ascend now. So we have Neptune in Pisces at 18 degrees. And I believe Lilith is going to be at 20 degrees in Pisces. It's a 1 degree orb. I think she was had at 20. They're right there together. This is deep, deep, deep subconscious work. We talked about Lilith in Pisces. Lilith wants to know. She wants to get down there in the subconscious mind, and she wants to have access to that power. She wants it back. She's kind of bored with this world. I mean, this world of bondage where we are all bound and the Lilith within us is bound. It's not at a certain point, it's not as exciting. It's not as full. It's not in the fullness of the true feminine power. And so Taurus is really, really connected to the feminine power, opposite Scorpio. Scorpio as well, key 13. 13 is the ultimate vibration of the divine feminine, as we're looking at it from this position, is also, it's deep, deep divine feminine power of the underworld, of Pluto. This is all about This is all about reclaiming this power. So now we're moving into Aries. This is what I found in Aries that I thought was really special. Chiron in Aries at 4 degrees. Chiron is the wounded healer, but it's Chiron also very, very connected to the divine feminine and our healing journey. It's about healing the wounds, and it's about reclaiming our emotional power. So Chiron is at 4 degrees in Aries. Four is the emperor, 4 is the ruler of Aries, and Mars, the ruler of Aries, is now in Cancer at 1 degree. Cancer is a deeply, deeply feminine, deep intuitive sign. The North Node is in Cancer. We've been talking a lot about of the return of the cosmic mother in our reality, the divine mother awakening within us. We have the ruler of Aries, which is masculine, squaring Chiron, feminine, in Aries. And so from Cant, these two cardinal signs squaring each other, that's activating. Mars is doing deeply transformative work in Cancer, and Chiron is doing deeply transformative work in Aries for all of us. This is kind of a, what's the word? It's not a boost. It's a forced growth. It's the forced entry into this new cycle of growth. And because Mars is in Cancer, a water sign like the full moon, there's all kinds of subconscious themes. This is about understanding. And we know that the shadow of Cancer can be irritable, too emotional, over emotional, misused emotions, being tugged by our emotions. This is about the power of our emotions, owning our emotions so that we can run them through our spiritual body. It's a completely, completely different. Oh, I have Chiron in Aries too. It's a completely different energy, completely different energy. When we're in our emotional power, our creativity is so much different. So, all right, this is what I saw in Aries. Vesta, the priestess, is at 20 degrees Aries. Fortune, the goddess of abundance and good luck, very kind of connected to Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet, the archetype for Jupiter in the archetypes is fortune. It's the wheel of fortune, key 10. So Fortune, Vesta are conjunct Eris. Eris, we've talked about her as this goddess of discord, Mars' sister. She can wreak havoc. She's out to transform. She's out to overturn things and bring things into justice. So she has this kind of volatile energy, but we have Vesta, the priestess, the kind of the structured, hardworking, focused fire of transmutation alongside Vesta. So you take Vesta's power or Vesta's focus and alchemy next to Eris's discord and pure raw power, and you get a boost of, this is all us. This is us inside. You get a boost of evolution. You get an awakening, and then we have Fortune giving good luck. I mean, so Fortune is saying this is abundant. This conjunction, these three divine feminine planets together, or Vesta, Fortune, and Eris, are all working together, synchronized, to bring about this transformation. And then let's go into Taurus before we talk about the archetypes of Taurus and Scorpio. In Taurus, we have Uranus at 3 degrees. We talked a lot about that in the last video, the Taurus new moon video. And we have Venus conjunct Uranus. And it's going to be exact, and then Venus is just going to go over Uranus, but they're conjunct at the time of the full moon. Venus did her retrograde in Scorpio last year. And so and there was this big square, T-square happening with the fixed signs and with Uranus newly in Taurus. So Venus is now met up with Taurus, and she did her retrograde in Scorpio, the sign of the full moon, and they're in Taurus. Uranus and Venus conjunct in Taurus is Venus rules Taurus. First of all, it's her home, and so it's where her her tracing the pentagram really, really shows up. Her tracing in the Venus transits that we see in the sky. It's where she is most at home with that energy, bringing it into Earth to raise up the Earth. And so, especially with Uranus conjunct Venus at this full moon. Um, and she's very alchemized with Scorpio because of that. Right, that was a big retrograde last fall, if you remember. Venus retrograde in Scorpio. Oh, it was a big one. So then we also have Mercury and the Sun conjunct. So that means most likely this energy is going to bring a revelation. Something will be revealed. Scorpio is the depth of secrets, power, misused power, and judgment. Judgment is really death. When we judge, we kill ourselves, and that's what we're going to talk about. It's really, really deep to understand this, but it's so important right now. Um, and so we'll probably have something kind of especially with Venus conjunct Taurus. It's probably going to be around some Venus themes and some Scorpio themes. It's going to really, really highlight the ego body and the spiritual body, the reality of the carnal, the reality of the awake. So we'll look for that. Then we have Mars, as we mentioned, we have Mars in Cancer at 1 degree, getting ready to do really deep dive into Cancer throughout the month, and squaring Chiron, like we mentioned. We have the North Node at 18 degrees of Cancer. And then let's see, moving all the way around, we have the moon at 27 degrees Scorpio, and then Jupiter in 22 degrees Sagittarius. And by the way, Jupiter is trining that triplicity of Vesta, Eris, and Fortune. And so we've got Jupiter and Fortune trining each other. They're basically the same frequency. So this is what we have going on. And now we're going to jump into a little bit of the archetypal work. Giving a quick check. I'm going to look down at this. All right. Oh, I'm glad you could catch us live today. All right, glad you can hear me. So seeing that now. Oh, it's so nice to be here with you guys today, and I'm super glad I could get this up before I leave. All right, just going to take a quick peek at some of the things I wrote. All right. Okay. So this is it. I really want to bring this message in. We create this reality. We have an ego body, a personality body, an ego mind body. That's what this is. That's what this is. It's this is, we can't help it. We're always in our ego when we're in this body. This body is amazing, but it holds the seed of the fall in consciousness. It's corruptible. It dies. But we live in death. And so here's the Scorpio death theme and the Pluto death theme. This is a body of judgment. And we live in the reality of constantly, constantly judging the outside. I've been building up to this, but this is big theme in 2019, leading up to the 2020 conjunction in Capricorn of Saturn and Pluto. This is a time when we have to overcome that. If we want to get on the ascension train and ride this one out, we need to understand what judgment really means, because judgment, after all, rules regeneration. It rules Scorpio. It rules death. It rules, it's the Hebrew letter Shin, which is the letter of the Holy Spirit, and purification. That's huge. The letter Shin, it's the planet. Shin is the planet Pluto, and it's the power of the Holy Spirit. And so it shows that our awakening is coming from understanding how we project our pain and suffering onto the world and then see it as our own enemy. This is what this 3D reality is about. There is a battle of consciousness, but that's because polarity exists within this ego mind body reality, Maya, the illusion. The spiritual body, and this is what light body yoga is all about, is that it's a consciousness vehicle so that we can transcend this reality. We are okay with this reality and we enjoy the fruits of it. It's beautiful, but we can live in this reality and not be of this reality at the same time. That's what enlightenment is. When we transcend, somebody once asked how I define enlightenment, it's transcending the ego consciousness. This takes a great amount of work. It's not that the universe or that the creator is trying to keep our power from us, but we're not able to hold that sort of light if we have even 1% of judgment. If we have that stain, that's our original sin. When we hold that stain, we get to the point where we reach a certain quotient of consciousness where we start to jump over the hoops we start to take some leaps, which is amazing. But we have to look at how we judge others, because really this is the law of one. We're only judging ourselves, period. It doesn't matter how evil you think somebody is, or how evil the atrocities. This is deep. It's not for everybody. You have to be able to, like, to just hear this would sound like it's whoa, 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 whoa. Wait a minute. The dark is the dark and the evil is evil, right? Right. Of course, we understand that we're trapped in this reality and there's pain and suffering all around us. And the thing to understand also is that we've all gone through it. I mean, I've never met a soul who hasn't in this lifetime experienced some kind of deep pain and suffering, but deep down there in there, we've all experienced the bottom of the barrel. We've all been there. The we've all been the victims and we've all been the perpetrators. We try on different hats in this reality. And so there's this thing called the law of one, and there's many different ways of interpreting it. You can go online and search the law of one, and many different philosophies will come up. There's a couple big ones. The law of one is the law of unity, and it means that we understand that I am my brother and my brother is me. And so we're just going to see if we can go into that a little deeper. There's not one of you on this platform today. When I see you guys, and this is getting stronger and stronger for me, when I see you, it's like I know it's myself. And I can't explain it because it's beyond words, but it activates something inside you where you can feel into when we feel into something, we're just understanding, we're going into that part of ourself. If I feel into you, I go in and I say, oh yeah, that's me. You are me and I am you. That namaste business, namaste, it's real. All of these teachings have been here with us from the beginning. But the way the dark would have it, we are being fooled over and we're being baited with our emotional energy. All of it, the media, everything. I mean, everything. How many times a day do you get triggered? Every time you get triggered, you're being pulled into ego body reality. Now, obviously, there are times when we get triggered. Each trigger can lead you to your salvation, or it can lead you to your condemnation. Each time you get triggered, you have a chance to step on board that ascension train and rise on up and use your power. That's the good use of trigger. When we get triggered and we activate the body of pain, which is what we all do. We go through, and I've lived this path, so I know it. I can say it from experience and mentoring thousands of people, watch people go through this over and over. We activate our own pain, and then we see it, and we get to make that call. Am I going to go back into it, or am I going to transcend it? Each time there is a decision presented before us, every single time we are triggered. Am I going to choose it again, or am I going to get off that train and get on the real one? Am I going to stick with this? Am I going to spiral? Am I going to just go into more deep, deep pain and suffering, or have I done enough? And am I ready? When you are ready, this is the teaching of the Holy Spirit. You can call it Spirit, Holy Spirit, whatever you want. This is the teaching. I'm getting it now. So this is it. This is so, so powerful. When you get it and you're like, okay, I get it. I feel stuck. I keep spiraling. Darn, it gets me every time. But you surrender it. That's the hangman. That's Neptune. That's when we go in and just say, I give it up. I give it to you. We give it to our higher self. We give it to the God source, the divine mother. And we say, I understand that I'm not in this ego mind. I'm not capable of transmuting all this. I keep being pulled in and pulled in, but I give it to you. I surrender it. This is the alchemy of the zodiac. What happens is then Shin, that Pluto power, which is massive, it rules the end. It rules hell because it rules heaven. I mean, Pluto on the tree of life is death. It's the entryway into a full awakening of consciousness. We have to go through death. Death holds our karma. When we walk through that door, we're done. It rules the back of the occiput in the back of the neck. It's connected to our word. But when we choose that, what happens is the spirit can, and this is what's coming, the spirit, we've used our own free will, and now the divine can come through us. The divine has created us. Each one of us is a spark of the divine. And that means that we each are the divine. We all the power that ever was or will be is here right now. That is the truth about the self. That is the only truth. Right now, in this moment, I'm no different than the creator, but my consciousness and my vision, I want to mention something about vision, is different. I am choosing over and over to see through the ego vision. The ego vision is nothing but a projection of reality. So I just all day long am projecting the ego, projecting the ego. It's okay. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's bad. It goes up and down. I love as the ego. I love all the time as the ego. I do good on the planet as the ego. My ego has, in fact, some egos are really, really good. Some egos have perfected the ego and can go into the world as, I mean, we see it a lot. Good spiritual leaders, good politicians, good, the ones who haven't gone all the way, but who are still in their ego, but are very good. And that's can be a powerful thing, but it's still, as long as we see through that, the Shin spirit can't come in. Once we just say, take it, I give it to you, we burn it in the fire, we start to get the transmission of the spirit. And that's what Scorpio is. It's 13. It's that deep underworld transmutation. And everything starts to change. So when that happens, just to tell you, the forces are going to just they're going to want to magnetize to us, because they're like, oh no, we're losing one. We're going to lose her. We're going to lose her. And they come and they come and they come and they tempt you and they show up in your dreams. And all they do, it's really powerless. They show you the suffering of the world, or they show you, and the suffering of the world is meant to be seen, but we're meant to see it so that we can say, no more. I choose to awake so I can help other people awake, because that's the true power. Act as the ego the way we're meant to, but still know the full power is when the divine consciousness works through us. Once the divine has us, we're writing a new story, a new book of life. We close this book and we open the next book. So I'm going to take a peek down, just see what, if there's any questions. I'm going to ask you to, that's the key for me. Choosing it's so, trust me, I've cried many tears over this work, because not true for everyone. So a loved one's triggering anger may not be what it is on the surface. Following through, it may be a mirror of your own fear. And that's what we mean by projection, even a reaction to your shielding yourself from an unrevealed pain. Very, very, very true. And so how do we know what's what? We know what's what by living in a pure state of forgiveness and a pure state of understanding that the other person is us. The only time we get trapped is when we are fearful of the other person. They're coming at me with something that's awful, and I need to fight this to protect myself. But what you're really protecting is your ego identity. This is not easy work, because the world we live in right now, the reason awakening is so intense right now is because the stimulus coming from every direction is of the ego mind. The light is behind it, but we deal with so many. But I can tell you, at a certain level, you jump and it doesn't have the same effect on you anymore. And oh, that's a nice place to be, because you can breathe and you breathe the life breath anew, and you start to understand just how powerful consciousness is. Um, so there was another part to that. It is, yes. So the divine mother, the Holy Spirit, source, however you call your God, will not take your pain from you until you give it. We get to hold on to that pain and suffering as long as we want it. It's like a security blanket to the ego. I'm not letting go of that, because otherwise, what would I be mad about? What would keep you in bondage if you had nothing to be, if there's no more anger, no more pain, if you realize you can give it to a higher source and let that source start to move your creative function in your heart, it's game over for the ego. The ego from a higher vantage point doesn't even exist, but in this world, it's very real. It's the dream. And Mars is the tower, represents this dream. It's the dream of Maya. When you're in Maya, there's a war constantly. And the dark forces, some people aren't going to like this, but the dark forces are our own creation. And so we created this war in here because we were so attached to this identity and form. And so we are our own elementals working with the moon, created astral entities bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until they overtook us. Our own projections became the army of fear coming at us. And so, oh, it's deep. I'm going to be writing about it soon. In fact, the next letter I send out, I'm going oh, angel hugs to you too. It's so nice to see you. I'm going to be writing about that in the next newsletter. Let me just see. So give it up, surrender. You will be so happy you did. Questions. Are you going to, I'll come up with some questions for you guys. So are you going to be able to be active? Can you be political? Can you be a social activist? Can you study in a spiritual community? Can you be a lawyer, a teacher, a policeman? Absolutely. We still take action. Can you be, I think it was somebody last time, I think it was Lucas, was saying doing social activism in a high consciousness where you are. I think it was him that mentioned that. Absolutely. Don't wait until until you think you're all the way to act, but be vigilant. Take action. And all the great sayings, resist not evil, turn the other cheek, do unto others as you would have them do unto yourself, love thy neighbor as thyself. These are codes. These are divine codes that hold esoteric frequency. Those are mantras. And when you sit with that, there's the literal meaning. It's nice. It's nice. Everyone wants to think that can work well for spiritual teachings. They are actually codes that hold consciousness. That's what everything is. And when you start to activate them as the living word, your body will change, and your consciousness vehicle in the body conscious, you just won't like it. You'll be not attracted to it anymore. It will slowly slip away. And what replaces it is pure gold, because you're going to be walking around having a love affair with everyone you see. Like, you just go out and be like, I love people. I love everybody, because you're going to realize it's you. So we all go through differences and hard times. And I just want to speak to people who feel different, or who feel left out, or feel like you're just not right in this body. I've been through all of that. I can speak to it very well. It's like I was different my whole life, just by the things that were going through my consciousness. Never really could talk about these things for years and years and years and years. And it was like being trapped. It was like being a hermit, even when you're around, many, many people. We've all gone through that, but I can tell you, it's just to squeeze you to get there. Anything you're facing, some of it is we've chosen things in our ego body, and so it's coming back, and we're kind of on the law of attraction, and having this lifetime is made up of our zodiac and our planets and what we've done in past lives, and it's all in the zodiac. You can see all of that. We can see what we're coming from in our lifetimes, and the lifetimes are great, but they're ego lifetimes. They're ego lifetimes trying to build this conscious container for the body of light to come in, and it's very, very powerful. I'm going to ask, take a moment and just ask if there's anything that we're talking about. I'm going to go through and see if there's what else I have written down here. But if you have anything else that you want me to speak to, please let me know. Projecting, just don't do it. Stop and ask yourself, even when I know something we should speak to is politics and just sort of how we can take part without falling. We go through the fall. The true fall of the Bible and everything is a fall into the Taurus consciousness. Maybe we'll talk about some of the archetypes in those. It's a fall into the Taurus consciousness where we just are in the carnal. So in order to what this is all leading up to, and this will be coming in some of the next couple of videos, is how do we manifest from this higher place? It's a whole different playing field. Everything is going to open up, and every single unit of consciousness becomes part of your creative power. You cannot deny even one piece of creation to create, like the God source. The God source uses each and everything. There's nothing. There's one source and there's one light. Even though we have fractals and things have broken into things in this projection, in this dream, on the higher level, the dream doesn't really exist in the same way at all. I know that's pretty big to say that, but just gonna see if there's anything else. You guys are quiet. Um, so the ego body is stuck in the past and it wants to fight things of the past. It just can't get out of the past. The spiritual body is the body of true creation, and it's an extension of the God force. When we're in that consciousness, we're extending truth. We're just extending truth. And creativity has access to every resource in creation. Miracles will start to happen. They will happen. This is how miracles happen. And it's because it's like the Course in Miracles says, there is no order of difficulty in miracles when it's the Holy Spirit working through you. All right, holding back from reacting at so-called friends' attempts to make a spectacle of me by a loud cat call whistle as I entered a public place. I felt so disrespected. Oh, I wonder why they did that. Alcohol is a big factor. Yeah, alcohol can be. There's times when we use alcohol and vices for different reasons. Sometimes we're medicating. Sometimes we're going through really, really hard times and we're medicating. Sometimes we're doing it just because you might have a gene that makes you predisposed to drinking a lot of alcohol. Sometimes people use it for social anxiety. And some people use it just in a very, very refined way where it's just they're able to have a little bit. But I mean, I've definitely noticed as more of this other consciousness comes in, it's a different relationship. It's just because they call it the things of this world don't necessarily merge as well. But that being said, no judgment, no judgment, no judgment, no judgment of anything, because I just want to say this, it's such a slippery slope, because when you are truly trying to activate this path of awakening within you, we're going to talk so much about this when we get to the Gemini new moon, which is all about Zayin and the sort of discernment and understanding. How can we discern without falling into judgment? That's the big question, because we know we have to discern, but it's that slippery slope from discerning to judgment. This is what I want to leave you guys with. It's check in when you feel you can use social media when you're looking at people's posts or when you see things. See where it triggers you in your body. What does it hit? Does it hit your gut? Does it hit your heart? Does it lock into your head? Does it stiffen your neck? Do your shoulders clench up? Do your hands clench? Does your face contort? Start to understand, because that means that judgment has taken you over. When you go pure, when things get more pure, when you see things, you expand and the heart keeps opening. And anything that's not right, the transmutation is that this love goes out from you and projects truth onto what is not truth. And then it comes back to you, and it's like you receive the forgiveness from that action, but it's also spontaneous. And I know I'm getting pretty far out there, so that's why I just wanted to oh, I was in a car accident this weekend. It was my fault. I'm so glad you brought this up because see if the screen's clear. I had it blocked so I couldn't see anything. We all do things. This is it. Okay, this is what we'll finish on. We all do things that we're not proud of. We all have a past that we're there. There's that saying, every saint has a past, every sinner has a future. Love that one. It's the ego body. It's ignorance. Whenever we make a mistake, it's ignorance. And I'm not saying ignorance with judgment. I'm saying when we don't know who we are, we do all kinds of things, and then sometimes it's just cause and effect. Like a bunch of our actions when we were asleep led up to a consequence. I call it the coordinate in the auric field. Like there's a coordinate in the auric field, and when we come into the right time and space, bam, it goes off. We experience something like an accident or a breakup. There's a big break, big things that happen in our life. Usually the coordinates come together and boom, it's karmic. It happens. Sometimes it's to release it. Everything is to release us. I take that back. Everything negative is really to release us. Again, do I step on the ascending train or do I go back into the pain? We have to go back in for a certain amount of time, but there comes a point where we just can't do it anymore. And and the heart is like, we cry that last cry, we have that last judgment, and we let go. And so when you're in that place where something just doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel clean, you'll get this all the time. Even as you're awakening, there'll be days where you just feel like you went dark, meaning you closed off from it. It doesn't matter. You just go right back in. Your mantra is, I give it to you. I surrender this to you. I let go. 1 minute at a time, I let go. It's like all the good programs. You let go 1 minute at a time. The spirit of Shin is there to transmute this. And I hope this leaves you with a powerful message for the Scorpio full moon. Remember, Scorpio is about this regeneration. So let's look at 13. The archetype 13 is Nun, the Hebrew letter Nun. It's the potency, the solar force, solar consciousness. This is the course I'm teaching is called The Revolution of Solar Consciousness, Building the Inner Temple of Light. Solar consciousness is the sun awakening within us. It's the inner sun harmonizing with the outer sun. And that is the Dalet, the Venus for everything, which is Taurus for spirit, the Holy Spirit to come in. We do that. And here's Vesica Pisces coming together. Boom. The spirit comes in. That Trinity force can activate. It's all consciousness. We are consciousness, and we are love, and we are unity. We are one, and that's not a joke. We are one. When you start to live like it, you will see how your life becomes a force. We were going to mention politics. There's so much I have to say, I'm going to say this is personal, and then I'm going to close out. So I for a long time went into, because I could see, I had kind of a gifted mind for seeing patterns, and I could see all the dark patterns in creation. And it angers you, it triggers you, it excites you, because you're like, oh wow, I can see this. I can see the matrix. I can see the matrix. But what happens is, I found that many, many people who are in that work go deeper into the matrix without realizing it. And I found that the more I got involved with that, the more the ability, like I talked about in the last video about seeing the solar light and seeing everything turned into the solar light, started to get locked out. And so you perceive it as attack, because every time we judge, we get attacked. This is how it works. The dark forces in this illusion attack us when we judge our brothers and sisters. They love it. They love it. They love when even sometimes when we go out and we think we're exposing this and exposing that, if our consciousness holds that corruptible energy of attack and judgment, we get attacked. And so there's more that we could say about that, but I just want to say thank you so much. It's really special to be here. We'll be talking more about the the Pluto Saturn retrograde, because you're going to feel it. Look up and find out where you're in your chart, what house that is. For me, it falls in my 5th house. My 5th house has just been like, oh my God, my 5th house is your house of Leo and creativity, sexuality, and the heart. And so find out what house that's happening, and then just see where you're being asked to look. What part of your life is being really called to release judgment? The retrograde is giving us the retrograde at the south node is giving us the opportunity to release our karma, to be done with it. Let go. Isn't the saying let go and let God? It's a good one. It's truth. So all right, I think I'm going to close out, you guys. It was nice to see you. I look forward to getting together with you when I get back. I'm liking Mondays, and I know I've said this before, but my schedule now is pretty systematized. I've got it methodical. So Mondays are going to be the day when I do these live streams. So I hope that's a good day for you guys. And so I thank you. Check out the Light Body Yoga link in the description box if you're interested. And I will be in touch with you if you need more information. And that being said, have a beautiful week. Happy, happy, powerful full moon in Scorpio. And until we meet again, Namaste.